"You're going to regret this," Max growled through clenched teeth, his voice echoing through the high-ceilinged courtroom. "You have no idea who you're messing with. I'll destroy you. You'll end up with nothing. Broken." Elena felt every cell in her body vibrating with adrenaline. The courtroom buzzed like a disturbed beehive. Max stood 6 feet away from her, his face twisted with rage. The same rage she knew all too well. The kind that made her freeze at night, listening for his footsteps in the hallway. The judge banged his gavel, demanding order, but Max didn't hear. His lawyers tried to pull him back, but he yanked his arm free, taking a step forward. The bailiffs tensed up. Elena gripped the gray folder of documents in her hands. Her fingers trembled, but not from fear, from anticipation, from that strange mixture of terror and exhilaration that had filled her these past 3 months, ever since the day she decided to take action. "You can yell all you want, Maxwell Harrison," she said, and her voice came out surprisingly steady. "But these documents speak louder than any scream." She opened the folder. Pages with official seals, bank statements, photographs, recorded conversations, everything she'd collected piece by piece, risking her own life. Everything that could destroy his empire. Max's face went from crimson to ashen. "How did you?" was all he could manage. "I learned from the best," Elena replied, and for the first time in years felt like she could breathe freely. "From you." Dear friends, before we continue, write and tell us what corner of the world you're watching from. Enjoy the story. 4 years ago, Elena Morrison believed in miracles. At 32 years old, she still believed that life could change in an instant, that fate existed, and that love could turn your whole world upside down. Foolish? Maybe. Naive? Definitely. But back then, standing in front of the mirror in her modest studio apartment, she didn't know that her faith would become a trap. That evening started like hundreds of others. Elena was coming home from work. She was a manager at a small travel agency, nothing glamorous, average salary, but it paid the rent and occasionally allowed her to buy a new dress. She was walking down the street, nose in her phone, planning another itinerary for clients, when she bumped into someone at the corner. A bouquet of white peonies fell onto the sidewalk. Huge, gorgeous, clearly expensive. "I'm so sorry," Elena gasped, rushing to pick up the flowers. "It's fine," came a deep voice, and she looked up. Maxwell Harrison, though back then she didn't know his name yet. She only knew that standing before her was a man she couldn't look away from. Tall, broad-shouldered, in an impeccable suit that fit like it was custom-tailored. Dark hair with gray at the temples, steel-gray eyes that looked at her attentively and with a slight smile. Strong-jawed face, but not harsh. Handsome. "Are these for you?" Elena asked stupidly, holding out the bouquet. "They're yours now," he answered, and his smile widened. She laughed, from awkwardness, from surprise. "I can't take them. They were meant for someone." "They were meant for a woman I wanted to impress," Max said, "but it seems fate had other plans. Take them, I insist." And Elena took them. Because there was something in the way he looked at her, like she was the only woman in this city, the only person who mattered in that moment. She didn't know then that Max knew how to look at anyone like that it was his weapon, making people feel special, right up until they became his property. "Max," he introduced himself, extending his hand. "Elena," she replied, shaking his firm, warm palm. "Elena," he repeated, as if tasting the name. "At least let me walk you home, since I've so rudely taken up your time." She should have refused. Any sensible woman would have turned down a stranger's offer on the street. But there was nothing frightening in Max's eyes. There was courtesy, light playfulness, charm. And Elena agreed. They reached her building in 20 minutes, but the conversation stretched to an hour. Max turned out to be an amazing conversationalist, attentive, witty, interested. He asked about her work, listened, nodded, laughed at her jokes, told her about himself, owned a chain of gyms, dealt in real estate, traveled a lot. The life of a successful person, but without arrogance. He spoke simply, like he was talking about something ordinary. When they stopped at her building entrance, Max didn't ask for her phone number. He simply said, "I'd like to see you again," Tomorrow evening, the restaurant on the waterfront, 8 o'clock. Will you say yes?" And Elena said yes, because something inside her chest skipped a beat for the first time in a long while. Because she was lonely. Because 3 years had passed since her divorce from her first husband, and she was tired of coming home to an empty apartment where no one was waiting. The next evening, Max sent a car for her, a black SUV with a driver in white gloves. Elena was confused. She'd planned to take an Uber, but the driver politely opened the door and said Mr. Harrison had requested she be delivered in comfort. The waterfront restaurant turned out to be the kind of place they take heroines to in glossy magazines. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor, soft candlelight, waiters in tuxedos. Max was waiting at a window table, and when Elena entered, he stood, extended his hand, and kissed her fingers. "You look stunning," he said, and there was genuine admiration in his eyes. Elena had worn her best dress, a simple black one, modest, but Max looked at her like she was royalty. The evening passed like a dream. Exquisite dishes, wine she'd never tasted, conversations about everything and nothing. Max told stories from his life, funny ones, touching ones, sometimes sad. He talked about how he'd built his business from scratch, how he'd lost everything and climbed back up, about how success wasn't just money, but loneliness too, that he was tired of people who only saw him as a wallet and connections. "With you, I feel like a person, not an ATM," he said, looking into her eyes. "You don't pretend. You're real." Elena didn't know what to say. She felt herself blushing, felt her heart beating faster. No one had ever said such things to her. No one had ever looked at her like she was priceless. The following weeks flew by in a whirlwind. Max showered her with flowers. Bouquets came to work, to her home, even to her friends' places. He invited her to dinners at the city's finest restaurants, took her to shows, concerts, exclusive parties where she met people whose faces appeared on the news. He gave her gifts, not expensive jewelry, but thoughtful little things. A book by an author she'd mentioned in passing, tickets to an exhibition she'd dreamed about, a scarf the color of her eyes. "How do you remember everything?" she asked once, unwrapping a gift, a set of oil paints, though she'd only mentioned once, casually, that she'd once wanted to paint. "I remember everything about you," Max said, touching her cheek. "You're too important to forget the details." Elena melted. She was falling deeper and deeper, and it felt not like falling, but like flying. Max was attentive, caring, passionate. He knew how to listen, how to comfort, how to make her laugh. When she told him about her fears, that she wasn't good enough, that she didn't have the exciting life that people in his circle had, he hugged her and whispered, "You're the most amazing woman I've ever met. Don't compare yourself to anyone. You're unique." 3 months later, he proposed. They were sitting on the terrace of his lakeside estate under a starry sky, and Max got down on one knee, holding out a box with a ring. "Elena, you've changed my life. I don't want to spend a single day without you. Be my wife." The ring was magnificent, a large diamond in a platinum setting, sparkling in the lamplight. But what won Elena over wasn't that. It was how Max's voice trembled, how this confident, strong man was nervous. "Yes," she said, and tears of joy streamed down her cheeks. "Yes, of course, yes." The wedding was 2 months later. Max insisted they not wait. "Why wait when we know we want to be together?" he'd say, and Elena agreed. The wedding was like a fairy tale, a venue decorated with thousands of fresh flowers, 300 guests, Max's friends, his business partners, people with big names. Elena's dress was custom-made by a famous designer, her veil held by 2 little girls, daughters of some friend of Max's. First dance to a live band, toasts, champagne, fireworks at the finale. Elena's mother sat at a table in the corner, silent and tense. She didn't approve of this wedding. Too fast, too showy, too unclear. "You barely know him," she'd told Elena before the ceremony. But Elena brushed it off. Her mother had been lonely and unhappy since her father's death. She just couldn't understand what real love was. After the wedding, they flew to the Maldives. 2 weeks in paradise, where white sand, crystal clear water, and complete isolation from the world. Max was tender, attentive, romantic. He carried Elena into the water, fed her strawberries at sunrise, whispered in her ear how beautiful she was. Elena thought it was impossible to be happier. When they returned, Max announced he'd sold her apartment. What? Elena couldn't believe her ears. I sold your apartment, he repeated calmly, pouring wine into glasses. They were sitting in the living room of his mansion. Their mansion now. We don't need it. We live here. I transferred the money to our joint account. But you didn't ask me, Elena looked at him in confusion. That was my apartment. And now the money's ours, Max smiled. Babe, we're married. What's yours is mine, what's mine is yours. That's how it works. Besides, I got a great price for it. You should be happy. Elena wanted to object, but something in his tone, firm, final, stopped her. And he was right, wasn't he? They were married. They lived together. What difference did it make? You're right, she said quietly. Thank you for handling it. Max came over, hugged her, kissed her forehead. I always know what's best for us, sweetheart. Trust me. And Elena trusted him. The first months of marriage were wonderful. Max was attentive, loving, generous. He bought Elena everything she could want: designer clothes, jewelry, a new car, a white Mercedes convertible that she was afraid to drive at first. Why afraid? Max laughed. It's yours. Enjoy it. But gradually, small things began to change. First, Max suggested she quit her job. You don't need to work anymore, he said over breakfast one morning. I earn enough for both of us. You should rest. Enjoy life. But I like my job, Elena objected. I like communicating with people, helping them plan trips. Babe, you're wasting your time on pennies, Max frowned. You're my wife now. You don't need some measly salary. Besides, I want you home when I get back. I want to see you, not know you're tired after work. He said it with such tenderness that Elena felt guilty. He was right. She didn't need the money anymore. And maybe it really would be nice to have more free time? Okay, she agreed. I'll think about it. Don't think. Just quit, Max smiled. But his eyes were serious. Trust me. Elena quit the next week. Max was delighted. He bought her flowers, took her to an expensive restaurant to celebrate. Now you're all mine, he said, raising his glass, and I'll make sure you never regret it. At first, it was really nice. Elena slept in late, spent time decorating the house, reading, meeting with friends. But gradually, she began to feel empty, as if something important had disappeared from her life. Then Max started commenting on her appearance. Babe, what are you wearing? He asked one morning when Elena came down to breakfast in jeans and a sweater. Just comfortable clothes, she shrugged. You look like you're going to clean the garage, Max frowned. You're a beautiful woman. You should dress accordingly. I bought you a whole closet of designer clothes. Wear them. But I'm just home, and I'm here too, he interrupted. I want my wife to look stunning. Always. Elena changed clothes. She put on a dress, heels, did her makeup. Max was satisfied. Much better. See? You're gorgeous when you make an effort. The comments became more frequent. About her hair, too messy. About her makeup, too little. About her weight, maybe cut back on desserts. Elena tried to laugh it off, but every word settled inside like a small stone. Gradually, those stones became a mountain. Then Max started controlling her phone. Who's this? He asked one evening, scrolling through her messages. That's Jessica, my friend from college, Elena answered, confused. Why? She writes a lot, Max frowned. Every day. What do you two talk about so much? Just life, work, nothing special. I don't like it, Max said, putting down the phone. She's a bad influence, always complaining about her husband, pulling you into her problems. You should limit contact with her. Max, she's my friend. She's toxic, he interrupted. I'm just worried about you, babe. I don't want negativity affecting you. Elena wanted to argue, but Max hugged her, kissed her neck. I just want to protect you, he whispered, from everything bad. You're my treasure. And Elena stayed quiet. She started seeing Jessica less, then stopped altogether. Jessica called, wrote, worried. Elena made excuses. Busy, not feeling well. We'll call back. Eventually, Jessica stopped reaching out. The same thing happened with other friends. Max always found a reason why they weren't right. Sarah was superficial. Michelle was envious. Linda used her. "I'm the only one who truly loves you," Max would say. "Everyone else just wants something from you." Elena's world shrank. No work, no friends, just the house, just Max. But Max was often away. Business trips, meetings, deals. He'd leave for days, sometimes weeks. And Elena stayed home, alone, in the huge mansion that began to feel like a prison. "I can't reach you," she complained once when he returned from another trip. "You don't answer calls, don't respond to messages." "I'm working, Elena," Max sighed irritably. "I'm earning money so you can live like a queen. Can't you understand that?" "I understand, but I'm just worried." "Worried?" He raised his voice. "I'm out there busting my ass, and you're worried? Maybe you should be grateful instead of whining." It was the first time he'd yelled at her. Elena froze. Max immediately softened, came over, hugged her. "Sorry, babe, I'm just tired. Don't take it personally. I love you." And Elena forgave him. Because he was tired. Because he worked hard. Because everyone has bad days. But the yelling became more frequent. Max started getting angry over little things. Dinner not ready on time? Yelling. House not clean enough? Yelling. Elena wore the wrong dress? Yelling. "You're useless," he shouted one evening when she forgot to pick up his dry cleaning. "I give you everything, and you can't handle one simple task." "I forgot. I'm sorry." "Sorry? Sorry doesn't cut it. I need a wife who can be relied on, not some airhead," Elena cried. Max left, slamming the door. She sat in the empty house, tears streaming down her face, and wondered, how had it come to this? He returned late, drunk, smelling of perfume and alcohol. "Where were you?" Elena asked quietly. "Out," he said curtly. "Not your business." "Max, you smell like—" "Like what?" He moved closer, his eyes cold. "Say it. Like what?" Elena went silent. She was scared. For the first time, she was truly scared of him. "That's what I thought," Max smirked. "Don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong, and don't ask stupid questions." He went upstairs. Elena sat in the living room until morning. This became the routine. Max would leave, return late, drunk, smelling of perfume. Elena stopped asking. She learned to stay quiet. Then the shoves started. The first time was during an argument about money. Elena asked to access the joint account. She wanted to buy her mother a birthday present. "What do you need money for?" Max frowned. "Just for a gift for Mom." "I'll buy it," he interrupted. "You don't need access to the account." "But it's our joint account." "It's my account," Max corrected. "I earned that money. You just spend it." "Max, that's not fair." He shoved her, hard. Elena stumbled, hit the wall. "Don't tell me what's fair," he hissed. "I make the rules here." Elena stood against the wall, breathing heavily. Max looked at her, then turned and left. She should have left then, should have packed her bags and walked out. But where would she go? She had no money, no job, no apartment, no friends. She pushed them all away. Only her mother remained, but Elena couldn't go to her. Her mother had warned her. She'd been right, and Elena was too ashamed to admit it. She stayed. The shoves became hits. Max would grab her arm so hard it left bruises, would shove her so she'd fall. Once he threw a plate. It shattered against the wall right by her head. "See what you made me do?" he yelled. "This is your fault. You pushed me to this." And Elena believed him. She believed it was her fault, that she wasn't good enough, that if she just tried harder, was quieter, more obedient, more perfect, he'd stop. But he didn't stop. One night, Max came home late again, drunk. Elena was in bed pretending to sleep. He came into the bedroom, turned on the light. "Get up," he ordered. Elena didn't move. "I said get up." He yanked the blanket off. "Max, it's late. I don't care. Get up. We're going to talk." Elena sat up. Max stood over her, swaying. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" he said. Think you can judge me?" "I'm not judging anyone." "Liar," he shouted. "I see how you look at me, with your judgmental eyes, like you're better than me." "Max, please, I don't—" He hit her. An open-handed slap across the face. Elena's head snapped to the side. Her cheek burned. "Don't lie to me," Max hissed. "Never lie to me." He turned and left. Elena sat on the bed, touching her burning cheek. Tears streamed down her face. That was the moment she realized she had to leave, or she'd die here. But how? Elena began to plan, carefully, secretly. First, she needed money. She started hiding cash, little bits, whenever Max gave her money for groceries. $5 here, 10 there. She hid them in a book on the shelf where Max would never look. Then she needed documents. Her passport, birth certificate, all papers relating to the marriage. She gathered everything and hid it in the same book. She needed to reconnect with the outside world. She created a new email account that Max didn't know about, started reaching out to old friends, carefully, tentatively. "Hi, it's been so long." Some responded, some ignored her. Jessica responded. "Elle, where have you been? I've been so worried." Elena cried reading that message. Someone still cared, someone still remembered. "I need help," Elena wrote, "but I can't explain yet. Just be ready. I might need a place to stay." "Anytime," Jessica answered. "My door is always open." And Elena started gathering evidence. Every time Max yelled, she recorded on her phone, hidden in her pocket. Every bruise, she photographed. Every threatening message, she screenshot. Every document related to his shady business, she copied when he wasn't looking. She was building a case, slowly, carefully, like putting together a puzzle. Then she found the lawyer, Victor Stevens, an old, experienced attorney who specialized in divorce cases. Elena called from a payphone. Max tracked her cell. "I need help," she said. "My husband is abusive. I want a divorce, but I have no money, no resources." "Come to my office," Victor said. "We'll talk." Elena came. She told him everything, showed the photos, the recordings, the documents. Victor listened, his face growing graver with each minute. "This is serious," he said when she finished. "Very serious. Not just domestic violence. I see fraud here, tax evasion, money laundering. If we play this right, we can not only get you free, but also put him away." "I just want to be free," Elena whispered. "And you will be," Victor promised. "But we need to be smart and careful. Men like him don't let go easily." They developed a plan. Elena would continue gathering evidence for another month. Then they'd file for divorce and simultaneously report to the authorities. "It'll be dangerous," Victor warned. "When he gets the papers, he'll go crazy. You need to be somewhere safe." "I'll go to my mother's," Elena said, "in Portland. He doesn't know the exact address." "Good. And one more thing. Don't tell him anything. Act normal. No hints, no warnings. If he suspects, he might hurt you or disappear with all the money." Elena nodded. She was scared, but she was also determined. The final month was hell, living with Max, pretending everything was fine while carrying this huge secret. Every day could be her last. Every evening when he came home drunk, she wondered, is this when he'll kill me? But she endured. She gathered the last pieces of evidence, bank statements showing illegal transactions, emails between Max and his partners discussing bribes, photos of property purchased under shell companies. And finally, she was ready. On a Monday morning when Max left for a business meeting, Elena packed a bag, just essentials, documents, some clothes, hidden cash. She called a cab. "Where to?" the driver asked. "The Greyhound station," Elena said. "Fast." She boarded a bus to Portland, sat by the window watching the city disappear behind her, and for the first time in years, she felt like she could breathe. Her mother met her at the station. She asked no questions, just hugged her daughter. "You're home now," she whispered. "You're safe." That same day, Victor filed the papers, divorce petition, and a complaint to the district attorney's office. When Max got the papers, he went crazy. He called Elena's phone hundreds of times, sent threatening messages. "I'll find you. I'll destroy you. You'll regret this." But Elena was safe, far away, protected. The legal battle lasted 3 months. Max hired the best lawyers money could buy, tried to hide assets, intimidate witnesses, bribe officials. But the evidence was overwhelming. Recordings where he threatened Elena, photos of bruises, medical reports where doctors documented injuries, and most importantly, financial documents proving fraud. The day of the final hearing, Elena flew back to Seattle. Victor insisted she be there. "He needs to see you're not afraid," the lawyer said, "that you're strong." Elena was terrified, but she came. And we're back to where we started. Max, red-faced with rage, threatening her in the courtroom. Elena, calm on the outside, terrified inside, holding the folder with evidence. The judge, banging his gavel. "Order! Mr. Harrison, sit down or I'll hold you in contempt." Max sat down, breathing heavily. His lawyers whispered in his ear. The judge reviewed the documents, listened to the recordings, looked at the photos. "This is one of the most disturbing cases I've seen in 20 years on the bench," he said finally. "Mr. Harrison, your behavior is reprehensible, not just as a husband, but as a human being." Max stared at the table, jaw clenched. "I'm granting Mrs. Harrison's petition for divorce," the judge continued. "Furthermore, given the evidence of abuse and the illegal acquisition of assets, I'm awarding her 50% of all marital property. Additionally, Mr. Harrison is ordered to pay compensatory damages for pain and suffering. The amount will be substantial." Elena felt her knees go weak. Victor squeezed her hand. "Furthermore," the judge added, "I'm forwarding all financial documents to the U.S. Attorney's Office for criminal investigation. Mr. Harrison, you'll be hearing from them soon." The gavel fell. It was over. Max stood, looked at Elena one last time. His eyes were full of hate. "This isn't over," he mouthed. But it was, and they both knew it. Elena left the courtroom. Outside, the sun was shining. She stood on the courthouse steps, feeling the warmth on her face. "You did it," Victor said, smiling. "You're free." Elena started crying. Not from sadness, from relief. She called her mother. "How did it go?" her mother asked anxiously. "I won," Elena said. "Mom, I won." She heard her mother crying on the other end of the line. "Come home, baby," her mother said. "Come home." 2 weeks later, Victor called. "The money's been deposited," he said. "Half of everything, plus the damages. Elena, you're set for life." Elena sat down heavily. She was back in Portland, in her mother's house, in her childhood bedroom. "What about the criminal case?" she asked. "The U.S. attorney filed charges," Victor said. "Tax evasion, money laundering, bribery of public officials. There's enough evidence to put him away for a long time." "How long?" "If convicted, 7 to 10 years, minimum." Elena closed her eyes. 7 years. 7 years of peace. "Thank you, Victor," she said, "for everything." "You did this, Elena," the lawyer said. "You had the courage to fight. I just helped with the paperwork." After hanging up, Elena sat in silence for a long time. Her mother knocked quietly and came in with tea. "All okay, sweetheart?" "Yeah," Elena nodded. "It's really over, Mom." Her mother hugged her. They cried together. Tears of relief, of exhaustion, of new beginnings. "I'm so proud of you," her mother whispered. "You're so much stronger than you thought." "I almost gave up," Elena admitted. "So many times." "But you didn't," her mother said firmly. "That's what matters." A year passed. Elena stood by the window of a small studio apartment and looked out at the street. It was raining, but she barely noticed. She was thinking about how much her life had changed in this past year. After the trial, the money hit her account. Half of Max's empire, an amount she couldn't have dreamed of before. Her first impulse was to buy something huge, luxurious, to prove to herself and the world that she was worthy of more. But when she sat in the realtor's office flipping through catalogs of luxury condos with floor-to-ceiling windows and marble floors, something inside her tightened. She didn't want luxury. Luxury reminded her of the cage. She wanted simplicity, freedom. Elena bought a modest studio apartment on the outskirts of Portland. Bright, with big windows, but nothing extravagant. Regular furniture from IKEA, white walls, fresh flowers on the windowsill. Her apartment, her space, where no one told her how to arrange furniture, what curtains to hang, what to wear. The rest of the money she put in savings. Part of it she gave to her mother for house repairs, so her mother could finally stop working and rest. Part she donated to a shelter for women who'd survived domestic violence. She didn't want to build an empire on Max's money. She just wanted to live. Max was tried. There was enough evidence, tax evasion, money laundering, bribery. He was sentenced to 7 years. Elena didn't attend the sentencing. She didn't need to see it. She'd already let him go. He was part of a past that no longer had power over her. Victor called after the sentencing. He tried to appeal, the lawyer said, but it was denied. He's going away. Thank you, Elena said, feeling relief, but not joy. She was sorry for the time she'd lost, but she wasn't sorry she'd left. The first months after the divorce were strange. Elena would wake up at night listening for footsteps in the hallway, but there were no footsteps. She was alone, and that was liberation. She started looking for work. First, she got a job as a front desk clerk at a small hotel. The work was simple: greeting guests, handling paperwork, answering phones. Nothing special. But Elena was happy. She interacted with people, earned her own money. No one controlled her every move. 6 months later, they offered her a position as assistant manager, then manager. Elena turned out to be good at this. She knew how to listen to people, solve problems, handle even the most demanding clients. The work brought satisfaction. Not big money, not status, just the feeling that she was needed, that she was doing something important. Her relationship with her mother recovered slowly but surely. They met every week, drank coffee, talked. Her mother no longer lectured or criticized. She was just there, listening when Elena talked about work, about fears, about hopes. "I'm proud of you," her mother said one day, hugging her daughter. "You went through so much, but you didn't break." "I almost did," Elena answered honestly. "But you were right. You warned me. I'm sorry I didn't listen." "The past is the past," her mother kissed her forehead. "What matters is that you're here, alive, free." And Elena met Daniel. It happened at a bookstore. Elena had stopped by on her day off, looking for something to read for pleasure. She was standing by the classics shelf when someone said, "If you're looking for something light and relaxing, don't pick Dostoevsky." Elena turned around. Before her stood a man in his mid-30s, in jeans and a simple button-down, with kind brown eyes and a gentle smile. "I actually wanted Dostoevsky," she laughed. "Then go for it, but prepare for some sleepless nights." They started talking. Daniel turned out to be a history teacher at the local high school. He loved reading, loved walking, loved his job. He spoke simply, without pretension. He was ordinary, and that was wonderful. They started seeing each other. Daniel took her to movies, to the park, to little cafes that made great coffee. He didn't give expensive gifts. He'd bring books he thought she'd like, or just wildflowers. He'd ask how her day went and actually listen to the answer. When he learned about her past, Elena didn't tell him right away, only after several months. He didn't pity her or marvel at her strength. He just said, "You went through that. Now you're here, and I'm glad you're here." Daniel didn't push. He didn't ask when they'd move in together, didn't demand promises of eternal love. He was just there when she needed him and gave her space when she asked to be alone. "I'm not in a hurry," he'd say. "We have time." And Elena, for the first time in years, felt like she could breathe freely. Now, standing by the window, Elena thought about how she didn't have a mansion, didn't have designer clothes, didn't have a driver and security. She had a small apartment, a job she enjoyed, a mother who loved her, and a man who respected her choices and freedom. And that was more than all the gold in the world. Outside, the rain stopped. The sun came out and puddles glistened on the wet pavement. Elena smiled. She'd been through hell, but she survived, and she was free. Freedom, as it turned out, was worth more than any gold, more than luxury, more than status, more than all the promises that turned out to be lies. Real life didn't begin with wealth. It began with choice, with the right to say no, with the right to leave, with the right to be yourself. And Elena had finally claimed that right. 3 months later, Elena got a call from Victor. "I thought you'd want to know," the lawyer said. "Max tried to contact you through his lawyer. He wants to talk." "About what?" "Didn't say, but knowing him, probably to negotiate. Maybe offer you money to drop the criminal charges." Elena was silent for a moment. "Tell him no," she said finally. "I have nothing to say to him." "You sure? He might offer a lot." "I don't want his money," Elena said. "I already took what was mine. The rest is between him and the justice system." "All right," Victor said. "I'll pass that along." After hanging up, Elena felt something lift from her chest. A year ago, she would have been scared, would have worried about what Max might do. But now she felt nothing. No fear, no anger, no curiosity. Just indifference. And that was the truest sign of freedom. That evening, Daniel came over. They cooked dinner together, nothing fancy, just pasta and salad, and ate on the couch watching an old movie. "You seem different tonight," Daniel observed. "Lighter somehow." "I am," Elena smiled. "I got a call from my lawyer. Max wanted to talk to me." Daniel tensed. "And?" I said no, and it felt good, like closing the last door. Daniel kissed her forehead. "I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For being you, for choosing yourself." That night, lying in bed, Elena thought about her journey. 4 years ago, she'd been a woman who believed in fairy tales, who thought love meant grand gestures and expensive gifts, who confused control with care. Now she knew better. Real love didn't trap you. It set you free. Real love didn't demand you change who you were. It celebrated who you already were. Real love didn't make you smaller. It helped you grow. And the most important thing she'd learned, that she didn't need someone to complete her. She was already whole. The right person didn't fill a gap. They walked beside you, holding your hand, but never pulling you off your path. 6 months later, Daniel and Elena moved in together. Not because they had to, not because of pressure or expectations, because they wanted to. They found a 2-bedroom apartment with a view of the river. Elena kept her independence, her own bank account, her own space, her own life. But now she shared it with someone who respected those boundaries. On moving day, as they unpacked boxes, Daniel found a gray folder tucked away in Elena's belongings. "What's this?" he asked. Elena looked at the folder, the same one she'd held in the courtroom a year and a half ago, the one with all the evidence, all the proof of her nightmare and her strength. "That's my past," she said. "I kept it as a reminder." "Of what?" "Of what I survived, of what I'll never accept again." Daniel put the folder down, came over, and hugged her. "You don't need reminders," he said gently. "You're already the strongest person I know." But Elena kept the folder anyway, not as a weapon or a shield, just as a testament, a record of the woman she'd been and the woman she'd become. 1 year later, Elena stood on a stage. She'd been invited to speak at a local women's shelter, the same one she'd donated to. They wanted her to share her story. At first, she'd refused. It was too personal, too raw. But then she thought about all the women who were still trapped, still believing the lies, still thinking they were crazy or weak or worthless. So she agreed. The room was full of women, some young, some old, some with visible bruises, some with invisible scars, all with the same look in their eyes, fear mixed with desperate hope. Elena told her story. Not all of it, some parts were still too painful, but enough. She told them about the fairy tale beginning that turned into a nightmare, about the isolation, the control, the violence, about the moment she decided to fight back. "I was terrified," she said, her voice steady. "Every day I thought he'd kill me. Every night I wondered if I'd make it to morning. But I kept going, one small step at a time, one hidden dollar, one recorded conversation, one copied document. The women listened, some crying, some nodding. "And here's what I want you to know," Elena continued. "You're not crazy, you're not weak, you're not to blame. He's not going to change. The promises he makes when he's sorry, they're lies. The good man you fell in love with, he was never real. He was bait." She paused, looking at the faces before her. "But you are real. Your strength is real. And you deserve better. You deserve peace. You deserve freedom. You deserve love that lifts you up, not tears you down." When she finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Soon the whole room was applauding, and Elena saw tears streaming down faces, saw women standing, saw hope in eyes that had been dead. After her talk, women came up to her. Some just wanted to shake her hand. Others wanted to share their stories. One young woman, maybe 22, grabbed Elena's hand and whispered, "I'm leaving tonight. Because of you. Thank you." Elena hugged her. "You're so brave, and you're going to make it." Driving home that night, Elena cried. Not from sadness, but from something deeper. From the knowledge that her pain hadn't been meaningless, that her nightmare had become someone else's roadmap to freedom. 2 years after the divorce, Elena got a final call from Victor. "Max is out on parole," the lawyer said. "He served 4 years. Good behavior." Elena felt a chill. "Does he know where I am?" "No, and there's a restraining order. He can't come within 500 yards of you. If he does, he goes straight back to prison." "Okay," Elena said, trying to keep her voice steady. "There's more," Victor continued. "He's broke, lost everything. The business collapsed, the properties were seized, his assets frozen. He's living in a halfway house, working at a gas station." Elena should have felt satisfaction, but all she felt was nothing. Just a vague sadness for a life wasted on cruelty. "Thanks for letting me know," she said. "You okay?" "Yeah." Elena realized it was true. "I'm okay." Because she was. She'd built a new life, a real life, and Max was just a ghost from a past that no longer haunted her. 3 years after the divorce, Elena woke up one morning and realized something had changed. She looked in the mirror and saw a different woman. Still her, but transformed. There were lines around her eyes from laughing. Her hair was longer, natural, the way she liked it. She was wearing an old t-shirt and pajama pants, no makeup, completely comfortable. And she was happy. Not the manic, desperate happiness of the early days with Max. Not the performance of joy she'd maintained during those terrible years. Just contentment, peace, the quiet knowledge that her life was her own. Daniel walked into the bathroom, kissed her cheek. "Good morning, beautiful." "Morning," she smiled. "Big plans today?" "Work until 3, then that shelter event at 5. You still coming?" "Wouldn't miss it," Daniel said. "I love watching you inspire people." Elena had become a regular speaker at the shelter, had joined their board, used her story and her resources to help other women find their way out. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't even about healing, though that continued every day. It was about purpose, about taking the worst thing that ever happened to her and transforming it into something that might save someone else. That evening at the shelter event, Elena met a woman named Sarah. She was 35, well-dressed, with carefully applied makeup that almost hid the fading bruise on her cheek. "I don't know if I can do it," Sarah whispered to Elena after the presentation. "Leave, I mean. He's not always bad, and I have nowhere to go, and I'm scared." Elena took Sarah's hands. "I know," she said. "I was terrified too. But Sarah, listen to me. Staying is scarier than leaving. Staying means losing yourself piece by piece until there's nothing left. Leaving means you might have to start over, but at least you're alive. At least you're free. But what if I can't make it on my own?" "You won't be on your own," Elena said. "We'll help you. There are resources, support, people who've been where you are. You're not alone." Sarah started crying. "I'm just so tired." "I know, but you're also strong, stronger than you think. You've survived this long, haven't you? That takes incredible strength." 3 weeks later, Sarah called Elena. "I did it," she said, her voice shaking but triumphant. "I left. I'm at the shelter now. I'm safe." Elena closed her eyes, feeling tears of relief. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "You just saved your own life." These were the moments that made everything worthwhile. Every painful memory, every scar, every nightmare. If it meant one more woman found the courage to leave, it was worth it. 4 years after the divorce, on a crisp autumn morning, Elena stood on the steps of the shelter's new building, a facility she'd helped fund. They were cutting the ribbon, opening new doors for women who needed safety and support. The mayor was there, local news cameras, donors and volunteers. But Elena didn't care about any of that. She cared about the women who were watching from the windows upstairs, the ones who'd arrived last night, this morning, yesterday, the ones who'd finally found the courage to run. "This is for you," she thought, "for every woman who's been told she's nothing, for every woman who's been made to feel small, for every woman who's been trapped by someone who claimed to love her." When it was her turn to speak, Elena kept it simple. "4 years ago, I was broken," she said. "I'd lost myself in a relationship that nearly destroyed me. But I found my way out. And if I can do it, anyone can. This shelter exists to prove that you're not alone, that there's always a way out, that your life is worth fighting for." She cut the ribbon, people applauded, the doors opened. And as Elena walked inside, she thought about how far she'd come. From that terrified woman in the courtroom to this, someone who could stand tall, speak her truth, and help others find their strength. It wasn't the ending she'd imagined when she first met Max on that street corner 5 years ago. It was better. Because she learned the hardest lesson, that sometimes the fairy tale you're chasing is actually a nightmare. That sometimes Prince Charming is really a monster in disguise. That sometimes the only one who can save you is yourself. And once you learn that lesson, once you claim that power, no one can ever take it away from you again. Elena Morrison was free, and she was never going back. Dear friends, this story is over, but the question remains. Would you have found the strength to fight, or would you have accepted the golden cage? How often do we sacrifice freedom for comfort? How often do we close our eyes to the first warning signs, convincing ourselves it's love? Write in the comments, what would you have done in Elena's place? Would you have left at the first signs of control? Or, like her, would you have tried to convince yourself that everything would work out? And remember, real love doesn't imprison, it liberates.